Thank you so much for joining us for this session. The session is going to address task-based language teaching or elements of task-based language teaching, and just in general, incorporating real-life-based tasks at various levels of proficiency. So today it's going to be me and my friend and colleague, Tatiana Kuzina. I just saw that she just joined the meeting because she's actually at, it's a busy time for conferences, so she is in Alaska, right now. Also fresh from the presentation, Skarabla Naval, so this is wonderful. So let me start by introducing Tatiana and me. And then we will proceed with our presentations. Unfortunately, Masha Serttunc could not join us today. She was going to originally present on higher levels of proficiency, incorporating task-based language teaching at higher levels of proficiency. However, since both Tatiana and I have also worked with those higher levels of students, we will be able to address your questions, hopefully, or we can all have a dialogue about this together if you have questions specifically for TBLT at higher proficiency levels. So let me go ahead and start by presenting Tatiana. I see she's here. Tatiana has her master's in philology at Lomonosov Moscow State University, which also happens to be my alma mater. So she also, there she studied the methods of teaching RKI, right? And she taught Russian as a foreign language there in the summer language program. She now teaches at the Washington Academy, the Washington Language Academy at City University of Seattle, as well as at a community-based Russian language school. And last summer, she also taught at an immersive Russian language program with Concordia Language Villages. So you see a very wide range of experiences with teaching Russian. And as for me, right now, I'm a PhD student. My name is Mariya Goebert. I'm a PhD student at SUNY University at Albany here in New York. I have, with Russian, I've had also various experiences. I've taught at public schools in Virginia, and then I taught at the Defense Language Institute as well. And then for the past 2 years, I taught in a fully virtual Russian Serttunc program with students, high school students, and I was a novice level instructor. So today we will start with my presentation, and then Tatiana will continue with hers, and then we will have a lot of time to discuss any questions that you may have. And so also last summer, I wanted to say that Tatiana and I went to this amazing Serttunc training for teachers, specifically focused on TBLT, which stands for task-based language teaching. It took place at Georgetown University, and it was truly a wonderful opportunity for us. So throughout this year, we may have incorporated elements of task-based language teaching in the past before that, but throughout this year we've really focused on that. So we wanted to share what we've learned with all of you. It is always, of course, a work in progress. I really wish, Serttunc programs for teachers could continue. Here's to hoping that maybe someday they will resume. So I will start with my presentation. I will focus on real life tasks and elements of TBLT. I will allow this I will, let's allow all of us some room to breathe, it's okay to just incorporate elements of teaching method, right? Specifically at the novice level. So as I said, for the past 2 years, I was a novice level Russian instructor at the Serttunc program for high school students. So this is a fully virtual program. I was also teaching at SUNY Albany at my university. I taught, that was an intermediate group. And then, back when I taught in Virginia, I also had a lot of novice learners of Russian. So again, at the end of the session, we will be able to discuss all those like ways to incorporate real life-based tasks in our teaching, motivating students to learn the language, and hopefully we'll get some ideas. And I hope whenever I present, none of these ideas are new, right? And I hope for us to have a dialogue as well. Maybe you have ideas for tasks that you use in your teaching. I always come out really enriched from these sessions. All right, so task-based language teaching. I find, just based on my own experience, I find this method a little bit intimidating when we look into it, when we look into what the whole task cycle entails, how we're supposed to be continuously teaching with this approach, supposedly. It can scare people off, especially those instructors who work with novice learners. It may seem like it's a little bit too much. However, just through trial and error, I'm finding that when first of all, a lot of the things that we do actually already fall under this approach. And also, it's okay to just include elements of certain teaching methods and then maybe not other elements of those methods. So Ellis et al. And others, wrote about criteria of a successful language task. So there should be always the primary focus is on meaning. It's not on, it may be on form, but not on forms, not on specific grammar forms. We're mainly focused on the functional use of language. And there's some kind of information gap. That means that there's a reason for students to engage in this activity, in this task. There's some kind of an info gap that they need to fill. Then learners need to rely on their own linguistic and non-linguistic resources. So we're not telling them to use, I don't know, perfective in the future tense in order to do that, or we're not necessarily giving them sentence frames, although I might argue that at novice levels, sentence frames might be actually helpful. But essentially, they're using their whole linguistic repertoire, everything they've got, in order to complete this language task. And there's also a clearly defined communicative outcome. It doesn't have to be like when we talk about tangible products, it doesn't necessarily have to be something we can touch. It can be a communicative act that has been accomplished. Um, so, and Willis also added an additional criteria is, does it relate to real world activities? How does this relate to what we do in real life? So when we look at these and when we think about this real world application, sometimes again, it may seem a bit overwhelming to think that everything we do in class has to be based on real life. And it's not always feasible for us as teachers to create. Yes. So anyway, so the types of tasks. Let me go ahead and skip to here. So when we look at the different types of tasks, though, we realize that maybe this is not as scary as we thought at first. So that the real life application, that is a target task, right? That is this activity that matches something that happens in real life. However, on the way there, there's also pedagogic tasks. Something maybe not some based on 100% based on real life activities, somewhere where students are still students and teacher is still a teacher. Students still have to go through some practice when we build up to this target task. And then there's also building block tasks, which is our, just like the small, short exercises, right? As the students get to practice. On the way to real life based activity. And I hope that, I hope that what I share will communicate this message that we can absolutely recreate authentic, immersive experiences with our novice learners without leaving our classroom. It is possible to create immersive, real life based tasks in the classroom. Sometimes, of course, travel overseas would be the perfect way of learning language, but we can do things in our classroom that will have the students create that atmosphere of immersion. So some of the things I find really helpful are routines. This is absolutely not, a new idea. This is something I've learned from my mentors. And I find these routines and this particular routine very helpful and very welcome in my classroom. So Русский магазин, and it can be just like a local store. We don't have to emphasize the Ruski part. Depending on your program, you know your students best. So students get to do this routine. It can be in the beginning of the class. It can happen maybe once a week, but students interact with each other. They practice buying items, asking сколько стоит, asking можно пожалуйста. This is a perfect way to practice that phrase. This is your way to, for more advanced students, to practice maybe numbers and even the complicated story with Russian language where 2, 3, and 4 is a little bit, and 5 and more is already a lot more. So we can practice with prices, we can practice with naming things and asking for things. I've done this routine in various programs literally on day one. We can teach our students very simple phrases of asking for, I don't know, sushka, asking for, конфета. And yes, they might just know this as sushku or конфету right off the bat, but that doesn't hurt. So, сегодня у нас в магазине есть. It is best to include not just the stereotypical items in the Russian store, but things like chak-chak, things that help students learn about maybe regional possibilities, like regional differences in Russia and maybe in other Russian-speaking places. This is a perfect time to introduce it. And ideally, there will be real things that students are buying and selling. But I will tell you that I've done this routine very successfully online, where we pretended that the students were buying things at a Russian store. Again, we did it on day one of students never having interacted with Russian, and they learned how to ask for things, how to say spasiba. And, it doesn't just have to be store-specific phrases. They can just practice things like «Здравствуйте», «Как дела?», «Хорошо», «Сколько стоит?», «Спасибо», «До свидания». Perfect routine that has students sort of dive into culture, dive into an activity that mimics something we do and they will do in their real life. Now, is that a task or an activity? Good question. Good question. One might argue that, we gave them the whole vocab list, things that they need to say. Maybe it's just an activity. But in my mind, does it matter? Maybe not. I'm not a stickler to orthodox following of teaching methods, and I think sometimes just incorporating elements from, say, task-based language teaching is already enriching our classroom. So the next activity that I will, next event, really, it's a whole event based on a task that I will share is an in-class immersion. I've organized, this is inspired by what is done at DLI, at the Defense Language Institute. There's these immersions, but it's not a new idea, certainly. Many programs organize immersions for students to practice using language in real life circumstances. So there's various ways to do an in-class immersion. Usually there's a scenario that students follow. There's just a series of steps and truly a real life-based task that students need to complete. The pictures that I will show when talking about this event will be from SUNY Albany. I've done an immersion there. I've also done this event online with my students in Serttunc. It's a novice class. And then I have done this event at Syracuse University. We have this, I don't know how to call it, I think friendship. And by the way, in your area, if you happen to have teachers who don't or like maybe no longer teach Russian or used to teach Russian or maybe retired teachers of Russian, they are a wonderful resource for you to engage because I am always so happy. I'm not really teaching, probably next year I'm not teaching Russian actively, but I have this collaboration with Syracuse University, which is within commuting distance from me, so I'm able to like once a year come and organize events with the students, and this is an extra, target language speaker experience for them. It's always a lot of fun. But anyway, so this is the in-class immersion called Welcome to Kazakhstan. As I said, it's good to give the students a scenario so that they have a certain task they're supposed to accomplish. It's like a role play, really. So here, this is the one I used in Syracuse last year. Really simple text. And you have to just kind of make sure that they are paying attention when you're giving the scenario so that students know that they will need this information later in the event. Вы американские студенты из университета Сиракуз, вы участвуете в программе обмена и летите в город Алматы, Казахстан. Самый большой город Казахстана. Там вы будете изучать русский язык летом 2024 года. They're not actually going to study it there, but it's good to just role play a little bit. And вы будете жить в гостевых семьях. The dates will be handy for them. И сегодня вы летите в Kazakhstan. I like to show them videos, maybe like there's a funny travel commercial. Добро пожаловать в Kazakhstan. If you look it up, you might enjoy it. When they're guessing where they are traveling, and it's really interesting for students to watch. And it uses a lot of words that students will know. So like горы, это Grand Canyon? Нет. And then in the end, they find out that they're traveling to Kazakhstan. Anyway, so basically we turn our classroom into all these stations where students imagine that they are in the airport. It's a good idea to give some preparation, maybe like some texts about places in the airport ahead of time so that students know what they will be doing throughout this event, right? And some basic vocab they will need. So things like taможня, they might not know right off the bat. So first, the story is that the students are waiting at the airport, maybe in the city where you teach or near where you teach, maybe in JFK. You can play some target language games. By the way, this event can take place, it really depends on how much time you have and your capacities. So it could be a whole day event, or I've done it over the course of just one class, one session, an hour and a half or even less. So you can play some target language games. Supposedly they're waiting for the flight. Then students get on the plane. It's nice to arrange the chairs, do really lean into it, bring the costumes, pretend, bring them some juice boxes at the plane. They can order juice, things like that. Students get on the plane and then they go to паспортный контроль. And a lot of our students don't even realize that паспортный контроль is a thing. And that's the reason why this immersion is so good for novice learners, because things that you're being asked at the паспортный контроль are basically your biographic information. And by the way, while students are on the plane, they can fill out the customs declaration, which also involves a lot of really basic words. I like maybe ahead of time in homework, I like to give students a sample of how to fill out this document so that they know. And in the immersion, I create realistic scenario like, oh, I'm sorry, we ran out of forms in English, so you'll have to fill it out in Russian. So for passport control, they answer different questions. Where are they from? Where are they traveling to? And here it's really important that they know this information, right? And it's a little funny when they find out during the interview at Паспортный контроль that they forgot. But that's okay. It's all you can play around it. Customs. So here I want to take a moment and say that this is something I did last year. This year I would be, and you know your students best. I would be really cognizant if this is like a trigger for some of the students. It's not easy to go through customs. So usually, back at DLI, Defense Language Institute, would make students pack their own bag for this immersion. Here, I like to bring a bag and pretend it's theirs and fill it up with some, like, I don't know, some matryoshka. I ask students, oh, is this the культурная ценность? Or like a bottle of water, things like that. It can be a lot of fun. However, like I said, we do need to know our students and make sure this is not going to be a triggering event for anyone. So then students go to, so they arrived at the airport, right? So ever since the паспортный контроль, they are in Almaty, right? So after they go through таможня, they go to currency exchange, да, пункт обмена валюты. And it's a great practice of numbers and very simple interview, like how much, what is, я хочу купить тенге, у меня есть доллары, etc. And it's yet another exchange for them. And then the next really is up to you. You can create a station for a store, just like we looked at the magazine routine. You can play it out here, maybe souvenir store, cafe, maybe students go on a tour to a local art museum. Really, the possibilities are completely endless. And this makes for truly a wonderful event. Like I said, we can use authentic materials. Here you may see that it does say Uzbekistan. This is something I used as a sample for filling out таможенная декларация. And if you look at it's just a list, making lists. This is absolutely our even not even novice high, it's novice mid requirement. So here are some pictures. A picture may say is maybe worth 1,000 words. The pictures now I'll show you are from again, like from Syracuse University. So this is their professor really living in the role, Byung-sam, in the role of a passport control person, and then me as well, asking them some questions. Then there's the currency exchange. It's always fun to bring the actual, cash box and, of course, fake money printed out. So the store routine, like I said, you can make it your own. In the beginning, again, inspired by something that's done at DLI, I asked the students to take the oath, but I think it is important not to have them just speak Russian, right? Я обещаю говорить только по-русски или по-казахски. Of course, in my experience, none of them do speak Kazakh, but recognizing that this is an option, that this is welcome, is an important message for us to share with the students. Maybe they will learn some phrases in по-казахски. That would be wonderful. And also for me, it is best if this immersion is ungraded. You can grade other things related to it, maybe something leading up to it, maybe like reading texts. You can have a task following up this activity, but I find that if the students' motivation, like they're given a scenario, they're given this, real life immersion, they will want to speak. And when they don't feel the pressure of the grade that they will receive for the event, I feel like actually they produce more. They're less stressed and it's a lot more fun and it's a lot more productive and memorable for them. And of course, it's a great opportunity to invite members of the community. Like I said, I went to Syracuse University. Here you see a picture of my friend Nur Sultan. He is actually a fellow student at Albany. When I did the immersion there, I asked him, he happened to have a class at the same time, so he wasn't unfortunately able to join us at the immersion event, but he was able to record a video for us about his life in Kazakhstan. I asked him to speak like really simple Russian language, and this was really cool for the students to, the more members of the community that can participate in this, the more rich of an experience it will be. And back in the day, it was always Ruski magazine. It was always rubli, it was always sushki, I don't know, пряники and чебурашка. But really, nowadays, it's really important to, the task of decolonizing Russian instruction and just not contributing to that whole narrative that Russian language only exists in Russia, right? There's pluricentricity of Russian. There's multiple communities, including the diaspora. And actually, like the store routine, for example, the store might be in Brighton Beach, and the students might be practicing with dollars and cents, depending on where your where you are and what is relevant for you. This might be even better practice for the students. And, why not? This is an important Russian-speaking community. And like I said, I have done this, all these routines and events online. It is doable. It is very much fun, and the students are not upset over not being able to actually eat the candy. But it's still a fun, immersive element that adds to your online class. And like I said, for me, these were novice learners, so anything is possible. And then, since I addressed pluricentricity of Russian language, I guess I added this slide here. There's always this complicated baggage when we talk about DEI initiatives. And when it comes to Russian language, because a lot of the messages of, including other people and, it just reminds of Дружба народов and the Soviet messages, which actually reinforced the oppression. So I feel like as long as we are cognizant of that and as long as we share this with our students, I think that can lead to some productive conversations. So here's some resources that I shared. And at this point, I'm going to stop sharing and I'll pass the word to Tatiana Kuzina.
Thank you, Mariya. Wonderful presentation. I have lots of ideas from your presentation. Probably will incorporate them too. My topic is real-life tasks in the novice and intermediate level online language, Russian language classroom. So I will continue the topic which Mariya started. And as Mariya mentioned, I work at the Washington Academy of Languages at the City University of Seattle. My presentation today and my teaching this year is really inspired by the Serttunc program, which we attended this summer. It was wonderful and gave a lot of knowledge and skills to me and ideas and inspiration. So I want to share this with you. That's my teaching setting, just to understand what I'm speaking about. So we have a continued education program, and our students not younger than 16 years old, and usually the majority of them are 25 and older. And like I have students who are 50, maybe some of my colleagues have 80 years old people, so very different students. So I teach online. And groups are small, from 3 to 10 people usually, so 5, 7 maybe. And we teach per semesters. Each semester is 10 weeks, and we meet each group we meet once for 2 academic hours. So we have 20 hours per semester total. So, managing real-life situations is a goal for the majority of our students, and I believe that to help them achieve their goal, we need to incorporate real-life tasks into our language classroom. But before we start doing that, there are several questions to think about, like what do we consider a task, which tasks to implement, and when to start? And in my presentation, I want to address these questions. And Mariya already mentioned something, but I think it's always worth to reinforce. So we'll look at the task criteria according to ability theory, then discuss some ways to conduct needs analysis, and finally discuss how to implement them into the classroom. And I will share with you some tasks which I used with my novice and intermediate low learners. So let's look at some key terms. So task-based language teaching or TBLT is a student-centered approach, and it creates space for meaningful conversation, meaningful interactions in the target language. And the tasks are the core of it. So the task is something that learners need to be able to do with the language. So some real world activity. And when we think about the task, we need to check these 4 criteria. Uh, like, is it do I focus on meaning first? Is there a gap? Do learners rely on their own resources? And is there a non-linguistic outcome? Uh, so also, I want to mention here that task cycle. So in Ability, there is like 3 phases of the task. Pre-task, where we introduce a topic or activate prior knowledge of our students, maybe some vocabulary, some phrases. Then main task, when they prepare, report, and post-task, when we do some reflection and can do some language-focused activities too. So in my opinion, creating a full ability course is really challenging, especially if you have a curriculum or maybe lack of resources, like time, for example. But implementing some elements, as Mariya said, really worth it, and our students benefit from it. So I try to do like a task-supported course to incorporate some elements into my classroom. So when to start implementing real-life tasks? So actually, research shows that managing real-life tasks increases students' motivation and self-confidence because they can do something in the language, not just to fill in the blanks exercises. So that's why I think I agree with Marie here that we need to do it with the novice learners, so as early as possible. And it might seem challenging, but on the one hand, there are some level appropriate tasks which students can manage even after several hours of Russian, like asking for a coffee, for example, which is a very real life situation for many of our students. And then there are some techniques which we can use to help our students perform a task, such as scaffolding or elaborating. So I want to discuss needs analysis a little bit because it really helps us to create a list of tasks which we can work on. So when we think about the needs analysis, we of course look at the standards which we have, like ACTFL, can-do statements. We look at the program curriculum, and yes, we understand. So this common topics, common guidelines are very important, and they tell us something about our learners, but still it's very valuable to get to know your learners, these individuals who are in your classroom, and that's why that's where needs analysis survey can help us. So I usually ask my students in the very beginning of the course several questions, such as what helps you learn languages? What's the most difficult for you in Russian? What's the most interesting? What's the most important? And I really like the question, what will you do in Russian if you already know it? So some students, they say different things, but that's what makes them think about their ideal selves, which sometimes open very interesting perspectives. So sometimes such service like predictable, so nothing new, but they can give us some priceless information. So for example, once my students were intermediate low students, and they said that they like the way we are practicing speaking, like in pairs, in mini groups, etc. But they know the topic we are working on, like in general, like for example, food. I don't know any, and they feel they can prepare to that before the lesson, just to review some vocabulary, phrases, and they want to focus more on the spontaneous conversations, like to feel more comfortable. And we came up with an idea like to practice to use randomizer to choose a topic for them, like to create a little stress, but to give them an opportunity to feel how it is to interact spontaneously. And one another example I want to share is the student wrote that if she already knew Russian, she would read Tolstoy and Dostoevsky's books. And we had a text about Tolstoy in the textbook, so I decided to use it as a door to the Anna Karenina novel. So what I did, I used the very beginning of the novel, this exact part, to practice language guessing skills. Ask them to use different colors and underline, highlight the words they know, what the words they know. So they did, and finally they were able to guess that it's a family story and that's a bad story because the husband wasn't at home, etc., etc. And they were very happy that they were pretty close, like general, of course. They were able to read. They were proud that they were able to understand even a little bit of a real original text. So it was one of the examples just which NITS analysis showed me. So now let's focus more on the tasks for novice and intermediate low learners. So after we understood what the learners need to, like we created a list, let's say ordering food, navigating the community, passport, passport control, etc. We need to understand the thing how to implement it. And as we're dealing with low proficiency levels, I think we should consider different ways to make the task less complex. And you can see here several ways, several ideas. Give more time to prepare, give less steps, less elements, give them closed prompt, and expect less amount of prior knowledge. So actually, about the prior knowledge, it's very interesting. Sometimes, if we know our students well, it can help us because if they already know this in their native language, then it will be easier for them in the target language, which we are learning. So I don't have an example with Russian now, but I have an example with English as a second language. So my novice learners, students were able to understand their recipe as they did not know any verb like add, mix, etc. But because they knew the realia, because they were that were senior adults and they were cooking a lot, so like grandmothers, and they just know the realia and they were able to figure out the whole recipe without my help. So that's just how prior knowledge could help us actually. So while using authentic materials give us great advantages, of course, with novice learners and intermediate also it could be overwhelming, and we should consider using elaborations like synonyms, informational informal definitions, and bimodal input like videos with the subtitles maybe, and listening to the audiobook while reading it, and scaffold tasks. So that's what I do a lot too. Here, I want to show you some examples of the tasks which I used and tell how it worked. So the first task I came up with was ordering a coffee and tea. So that's pretty obvious, I think. But so I used it with novice learners online. So what I did, I background, like I'm an FE, in Zoom, and I shared with them the photo, so if they wanted, they could upload and also use the background just to pretend we are in the same space. And I said them that I'm barista and choose a coffee from the menu. So I'll choose menu. Let's see here. That's an example. And that is a kind of a dialogue we had. I want to show why I think it is a task. So first, there was a focus on me. They wanted to order coffee. Informational gap. I didn't know what they wanted to order, so they should be clear and tell me. Then they use their own resources because coffee names are mostly foreign words in Russian. It was way easier for them. And the only thing we added in the pre-task phase was большой или маленький. So I just showed, большой, маленький. So they understood. And then we practiced this. So, and I have another version of this task, which I used with novice high students. Enforcing this, I took so that was, of course, like not a real menu, it was just created. And this is like a menu from, I believe, One Price Coffee in Moscow. So authentic resource. And they had a task, you have these amounts of rubles, spend as much as you can, but not more. And so they had a choice of different coffees, teas, etc. So next is creating a shopping list for a party. So after we had a food module for the food unit, I told them that they're going to do a party and they need to prepare and they need to agree in a group what to buy for a party. And they knew some food and they can Google it, but I didn't help them. And the goal was to create a shopping list. So they did it. You can see here. I provided this picture of a small store somewhere in the village. I told them that's not very common in Russia now, but it used to be, and still there are some places where you can see something like that. So, and I also provide, so we, during pre-task phase, we discuss the ways to react to each other's suggestions, like good idea, interesting, maybe this, etc. So, and they created a list and shared. Then I also like giving recommendations task very much because I can use it. I use it like real life tasks. I came up with this idea when I was in San Francisco for the first time, and I didn't know like almost anything. And I just asked them, "What can you recommend me to visit?" And so we created a real list of places to visit in San Francisco for me while they were practicing "Я рекомендую, потому что." So it was very simple. It's beautiful, it's unique, it's interesting, but still they practiced reasoning and they shared expertise, which is also very important, I think. And another example that was with TV series. Same thing. Вы можете порекомендовать, я рекомендую. And someone said, я ничего не могу порекомендовать, потому что я не смотрю сериалы. So that was when we discussed hobbies. So another idea. Also, with novice high learners, we did arrange a meeting task after we learned this. Давай поедем, пойдем, давайте пойдем, поедем. And they needed to arrange a meeting, so when and where to meet. And they did not know the availability preferences and they needed to rely on their resources. We discussed, of course, before a place in the city where they can go, like cinema, park, whatever. And the outcome was a time and a place to meet. So before we started the tasks, like pre-task phase, we spoke about some reactions like maybe, sorry, I can't, because, again, you see the reasoning, у меня нет времени, идет дождь, я должен работать. So, and finally they agreed some time to meet. And the last task which I want to show you was not very successful. And I think you can guess why, but it was the first time I tried, and I hope to try again next time. So we had a text about Golden Ring, and we and as a home task they watched a YouTube video. Each one watched one city video about one city, and they had a task to create a list of places where to go in that city, etc. And then I asked them to work as a group, and I told them that they go to Russia in winter and want to see as much as they can. And they have only 4 days, and they need to decide which city to visit and what places to see there, and what to do. So that places and activities were in their home task, and I expected them to use that knowledge because we discussed it before, but it turned out not to be the reality. So they did a plan, so you can see this is their plan, but they just did the cities, and it was very hard for them. They said it was interesting, but really they were lack of time and lack of resources. So I should probably consider giving them more time to prepare, or more maybe scaffolding. So maybe pointing that, okay, you did that at home, so use this and create. I don't know why it didn't work that time, but so sometimes we need to be more realistic about our expectations. But still, they were engaged, and they wanted to explore more. So, to round up, I think implementing real-life tasks into the novice and intermediate classrooms can be challenging, but it is very rewarding, and it worth effort we do. So, and I hope my presentation and our session in general gives you some ideas and inspiration. Thank you for your attention, and happy to answer any questions.
And
Discuss the
before we
topic.
move on to questions, I wanted to share this one resource with you all. So this is an excellent resource that we've been using, and I think it has so much potential for us as Russian language teachers. So this is, it's called TBLT Language Learning Task Bank. So if you go to, it's hosted by Indiana University, right? So TBLT, Task-Based Language Teaching.indiana.edu. You go to this website, and there's a bank of wonderful ideas. You don't have to. So right now you may see I marked that Russian only has 3 tasks, but these are language specific tasks, right? So you can use tasks from any language and adapt it to your context. So I wanted to share this resource. I found it really useful. And if you can contribute tasks ideas there. So if we can all help build up this resource, that would be really fantastic. Tell a friend. Let's build it up. I think it's wonderful. Yes, thank you
Yeah,
so
I
much,
put the
Tatiana.
link in the chat.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So now is a time for questions, or maybe you have suggestions or maybe even your own tasks that you would like to share with everyone, that would be really great for us to learn.
First of all, I would like to say that I enjoyed your presentations. It was very interesting, and though it might seem obvious, create a store or doing something else, it's not at all obvious, because every time we see such presentations, we see little details which change completely. For instance, I think it was a very clever idea in your presentation, Masha, when you wrote the words "сколько" и "спасибо" right on the magazine. I don't know how to say it. Выгородка.
Yeah. Yep.
And also, I really like in Tatiana's presentation. I think it's very clever and so cool. Needs analysis. I think it's really needs analysis survey, and especially the question, what would you do with Russian language if you know it? I was thinking probably they say something about reading, and then immediately Tatiana said reading Tolstoy and Dostoevsky. So I would like maybe Tatiana will share the responses of the students, like if she collects responses, or what are the most unique responses over there to that survey?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, I collect their answers through Google Forms. I use Google Forms for that because it makes it easier. And yeah, so that was just one very bright example with the reading. And the majority of students, I think, I might say they want to communicate in the language. And I have several. I usually have people in the group who has Russian speaking partners, but again, so if they have Russian speaking partners, they might want to speak to the partner like on a daily basis, or they might need the Russian language only for like communicating to the partner's parents or like family when they meet once a year, let's say, and that's very different goals. Also, what was interesting for me, so someone, of course, wants to travel to Russia and to Russian-speaking countries, and some wants to watch resources in Russian, like YouTube videos or TV shows. Yeah, so maybe I can't think of anything very like outstanding or very unusual, but yeah. That's
I
like
was
the average.
You know what? I really like the activity, the reading activity, Anna Karenina guessing, and I was thinking maybe it's possible to take a movie of Anna Karenina and create a voiceover with the lexicon presented in that whatever you gave them already. It might be fun. And
Yeah,
different
that's an interesting
groups
idea.
yeah, different groups can create this dialogue and then compare what happened. I think it will be a lot of fun, and it can be done online or in person, doesn't matter.
Yeah, thank you. Very
And we
nice.
have so many versions of Anna Karenina. We have Anna Karenina with Kira Knightley. We can take old Russian authentic versions of Anna Karenina. So whatever. So very, very
Yeah.
interesting. And I work in Concordia language villages, and we also use a lot of these kind of activities. Though we do not always think it's task-based learning or something like that. We do not give it theoretical base. But simulations definitely give a huge possibilities for that. And I also every simulation, whatever you take, like a doctor's office or journey, creating a journey on a train, gives you a lot of possibilities for this, and it's endless. But what makes the difference, I think, that the little details you invested in your preparation and shared with us. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. so much. I will add that, Tanya, I think your thing is actually very unique because it's not often that I would get a needs assessment that says I want to talk to my tyoshya in Russian. So that's not a very common thing to say. Mm.
Yeah. That's they really need, and they reported that. Yeah.
It's very, very cool.
We get a lot of our classes ranging in age from 65 years old to 86. And pretty unanimously, they want to preserve their brains.
Mm.
That's
Wow.
what they want to do with it.
Where do you teach, Alice?
It's in a program that one of the many Ollie's Osher Lifelong Learning Institutes, the one at SOU.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just for personal enrichment. It's great. There's no grades, and we only need to assess in terms of figuring out what we need to do next. But I found ACTR really helpful in coming up with new ideas.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Some good
It's
ones.
like a dream of a program, right?
Yes. All you have to do is retire. I mean, ours doesn't pay anything. Some of the other Ollies pay, but then they're much more expensive. Ours costs, you to join up for a year, it costs $150, and you can we offer over 100 courses a quarter, and we do 3 quarters. You can take as many classes as you can fit in.
Nice.
So we have 8 loyal Russian learners.
That's amazing.
That's interesting, yeah. And so what you said, brain, true, I forgot, but some of the students said that, okay, so that's just for fun, but I want to keep my brain like fit. I don't know, like to exercise. And yeah, that's very important. It's very interesting. So you have different languages in your program, including Russian, yeah?
The instructors are all volunteers, and so we don't have enough Spanish classes because the 2 women who are great at teaching Spanish just don't want to teach that much. And we have one little tiny Russian class, and the German class, they're reading Udo's memoirs. He's writing a memoir. He's writing it in German, and they read like 3 lines of a line of German, and then together they translate it, and then they read another line of German and translate it. And enjoying that class was what made me think, well, I can teach Russian.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Actually, writing memoirs is a so good idea. We can create something out of this. Like Mummy Papa. Do you remember Mummy Papa writing memoirs?
Oh my gosh, I'm reading it to my kids right now.
Yes.
Oh, fun times. Well, thank you so much for coming to this session, for sharing your experiences as well. This is a great topic. And Tatiana, I like how you said that, like, oh, we do this anyways. We don't call it like this fancy name. And that's absolutely how it is. I think a lot of the teaching techniques or methods, like this might be something we already do intuitively or like incorporate elements of it. And it doesn't have to be this like purist approach, because sometimes when I look at the whole like task cycle, the method itself has a lot of appeal, but when I think about teaching with it 100% of the time, I feel just a little like pause, it is intimidating, but we don't have to. I think that bricolage approach, like a little bit here, a little bit there, really works very well. So thank you so much for coming to the session. This was a really interesting exchange, and I'll see you. We will see you in other sessions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I have a
Thank
question
you.
to Alice. What state Alice is?
We're in Oregon at Southern Oregon University.
Oh,
That's
really?
amazing.
Wow.
I think has the biggest Ollie. I think it's because we're the cheapest.
No,
We're also
actually, as I'm teaching ESL for seniors also. Like we have a program in Seattle, so I'm from
Mhm.
Seattle, and we were just presenting like right before our panel. I was presenting in PNCFL conference about the ESL program for older adults. So it's very interesting. So we also try to help them enjoy and also adapt to the life in US.
That's wonderful. Yeah. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your conference. Thank you so much for coming to the sessions.
Thank you.